Shastri and Neeraja Janesh as they reflect on the biases working mothers face and how to offset these penalties in professional space. So I call upon all the speakers and panelists on the stage, please. Put a round of applause. They're going to deal with some real life problems. Let's see how it goes.
Hello. Hi, good evening. My name is Shruti Madhavan. We have a very interesting topic also at the fag end of the day, but there were some parts of the earlier session which really caught my attention. So we're going to talk about whether women can do it all, and that sort of very nicely segues into the topic of penalties around motherhood and biases around motherhood. I'm Shruti. I am a part of CLAY. I lead revenue for CLAY. We are a preschool and a daycare network, which actually started with the motto of bringing women back to work. Why should women have to be the ones who have to choose between having a career or being a mother? And we're really going to talk about all of that. With that, I thought it was interesting to share my own journey. I have been a sales and an operations personnel throughout my career of about 25 years. And sales has always been one of those functions where you mostly see men, right? And obviously, there came a point in time in my life as well where you wondered whether, should you quit having a well-traveled, very often you're out of home sort of a career, or should you really continue? I was fortunate to have a lot of support, and actually I asked for it. So my sort of big start of this session is, if you choose to continue both or to have it your way, both sides, then ask for help, and there's enough and more help that will come your way. And should I pass it on? Manija, you want to continue on that note?
Is this working? Yeah, I think it's working. All right. So I'm Neeraja Ganesh, and I'm pleased to introduce myself as, first of all, the mother of Sneha Ganesh, the girl who's standing right there. Okay, so yeah, that's my top introduction in terms of being a mother and why I am on this panel, right? Beyond that, of course, professionally, I've had a 25 years of technology career. And I quit from corporate in 2017 and decided to follow my passion in the space of gender diversity. So of course I've done a few stints with platforms which work in this space, but as an independent consultant, I also deliver a lot of leadership development programs, largely to help women um, in terms of holding their mindsets and transforming their mindsets. So some of the conversation that we're doing today is a mindset conversation. Of course, there's a lot that corporates need to do, but I think let's also talk about, while they do what they do, what is it that we can do? And let me start by saying that, and sorry, Sneha, your age will be revealed now, but yeah. So back in 2002, when I had her, I thought I was the only one who could have brought her up well, right? So I chose, I wanted to quit, but then I had, very good family who said, don't quit. If your organization can give you some time off, do that, because soon you will regret having left the job. So I said, okay, and I did ask my company whether they would give me some time off. So beyond the 3 months of maternity, I had, kind of kept some leave aside. And then I went on, what do you call that, loss of pay. I took 10 months off because I thought it was me and only me. Who else can, bring up my child the best? But then I think I'm also talking about an era where there was no internet. So what else do? I mean, you sit next to the child and, see the child sleep, or, kind of feed the child and just do that. And at some point in time, my family said, I think you need to step out of the house. So I'm glad that they said that. And I thought if I have to step out, I may as well get back to work. When I did that, I feel ashamed that I did this, but So I live in a joint family, right? So I live with my in-laws. So it was going to be my mother-in-law who was going to be looking after my daughter then. I actually said, "Do you think you can actually look after her the way I want her to be looked after?" And my mother-in-law, who's mothered three kids, my husband and two daughters, and the daughter and son of her own daughters, right? She's already a grandmom. But then I did that. So the point that I want to make is that we think that nobody else can do it for us. We think that we are the best. Of course, we are the best. But then, if you do want to have the career or whatever else that you want to do along with being a parent, in this case, a mother, do need to seek support. And the rest of that story of how I did it will unfold as we speak. Lakshmi, over to you. Three kids.
Thank you. Ah, you revealed it. I wanted them to take a guess.
Sorry.
I'm like starting with like 1 to 10. Do you want to pick a number? But yes, as of now. No, I think my factory's closed. So yeah, I'm Lakshmi Seshadri. I'm the CEO founder of Mom Power 360. I am a mother of 3 kids, and it's 3 boys. And every time I say 3 boys, I always go like, oh my God, right? Actually, it's fun. Guess they're wild. They're like having 3 monkeys, but it's fun, and I enjoy being a mother. It's something that I've always been inclined towards children. You know, any kids, babies I see, always like, oh my gosh. So being a mother was something that always, you know, thought it's such a beautiful journey and enjoyed it. Of course, it's not as glorious. There are days when it's tough. You know, now I have 3 amazing children, and post-COVID, I just noticed a lot of them struggling. At that point, I said, you know what, we need a space just for moms. There's so many conversation here that we need to strike, and I don't see that. You know, yes, a lot of women event, but the whole conversation goes somewhere else, right? Equality and all those stuff. But with mothers, it's more about also the personal life and how do you balance with the professional. So I want to bring in those aspects, and it's not about one person's perspective. I want to bring in everybody's perspective, because it's not, nobody is perfect. Everybody has their way of doing it, and that's what I wanted to show. You could be a happy housewife, you know, just staying home watching kids, or it could be a working mom. And you cannot be like, oh, just because you are not working and you're at home doesn't mean that, hey, you're lazy. Or just because you're out working doesn't mean you're a bad mom, because there seems to be like another kind of two set, like almost like Android and Apple phones, like, right? Two categories. So we started hosting conferences just so we could create platform to have this important discussion, whether work-life balance, you know, discussions that we want to have, because just felt like today's world, even though social media is out there, everybody seems connected, we're more isolated than ever. And the good old days of how it used to be raising children with neighbors and family, and you know, it just was a different world altogether compared to the world we are in. And there's a lot of mental health crisis along with that, and no one's talking about it. And women feel alone, and they don't talk about it because a lot of times they're ashamed to be judged, and you know, kind of looked down. So we want to say that, hey, it's okay to talk, and to have this conversation that it's not you. We all sail through it, and when you talk about being a mother, each phase is different. Just because, you know, a child is, if you have a newborn, the challenges are totally different from having a tween and having a teen. And by the way, I have like a toddler, tween, and a teen, so I'm sailing on the board, so I get it. And then other different challenges, even with the work and balancing. A lot of women want to do it all. It's not just about being a mother. It's somewhere down the lane, like Nirja was saying, you know, it's like as much as we want to love our children and be part of their childhood and all of that, somewhere down the lane, you know, time comes where this identity crisis, you know, they start questioning, who am I? I'm like, is this me, or is it just that, or there's more to it? And that's when, you know, things get complicated. So how do we avoid it? So this is just now stay-at-home moms, even the one who are out there, that's a whole set of challenges, like what's the corporate world doing? You know, how do we help women transition to work? So, yeah, so those are.
I'm picking up from where you talked about work and work-life balance, right? I'm I'm a firm believer that if you're true to yourself and you choose that you want to have a career and mother, and you don't have to be amazing all the time, right? And it's okay. But when I said ask help right at the beginning, one of the things that we work with a lot of organizations, and we tell them that, allow us to create a platform where they come and speak and they ask for help around even childcare, right? Give me a safe and trusted care for my children so that I can focus on my career, so that I can thrive at what I love to do. And if you're clear about what you want to do, I think the best thing for you to do is start early, ask early, seek early, and then don't get into this moment of saying, I'm having an identity crisis and now I'm having to think about a lot of things. So one of the things that I realized, and we are an organization which also has 97% women workforce, and sometimes there is such an unconscious bias, and I'm guilty about it as well, right? Because I've moved out of that phase. My daughter's 18. Sometimes when I'm interviewing women at certain positions, I have to really coach myself not to ask specific questions, right? Not to ask at what stage in life are they, what's the family like, when did you get married? My inner me wants to say, when do you want to have children, right? So because I'm already thinking about, 6 months maternity. So I'm just saying, if we can create a comfort around that whole process to say, hey, it's okay, we have a place, come back, we'll have that ecosystem for you. You talked about how we had relatives and neighbors, and so we need to create the village for the kids to be brought up in the right sort of a ecosystem. And I keep telling myself first and a lot of my colleagues as well that I think we need to stop consciously stopping those biases taking over and asking those questions when you're doing even interviews with women.
There's, right. Talking on that is, with the corporate, that's something that we're trying to figure this out because, as I said, I host conference for moms, and we get a lot of women who come and ask this, right? Like, I want to get back to work. I'm not sure, like, how it is. It's intimidating. Even the transition itself. I have a little child, and I don't want to leave the baby home. So having centers, for corporates coming in on this, because ecosystem needs to be created, especially in today's world where everybody's moving, they're relocating, people are flooding into cities like Bangalore, families are elsewhere. So now company becomes like a family, and they need to take on that role because when they support these women, they're going to perform so much more better. So actually it's good for them. So it's like you're investing in that versus, they train them and after a while they burn out and they quit. So it is like bringing in the personal aspect and the professional aspect and tying it together. And that's one of the things that we are trying to figure this out and to help bridge the gap between corporates and between the community, and how can we make the transition easier, and when they do transition, how do we help these women stay and do the best they can where they're not worried sick if my kid is okay, what's going on. So the corporates are like, it's like, don't worry, we have a center here, we're not judging you, and they feel comfortable enough to stay.
So, one of the things that I always talk about is, and we are talking corporates now, is move away from, okay, should I have a policy for mothers to shall I have a policy for parents? Yeah. So the minute you move from a maternal maternity leave to a parental leave, how things change, those biases that we have. I mean, let's agree. I mean, all of us are biased. I don't want to say that we are so unbiased. But then the thought process is that, yeah, I've opened up 6 months of a parental leave, so whoever it is can take that. So it benefits in two ways. Of course, the mother definitely can avail of it. The father can also avail of it. And if you look at the larger ecosystem, because we're not, I think we have to look at a larger ecosystem, not just our own selfish, my company, my employees, right? Maybe the man who's availing of that and his wife probably doesn't have at her, a place of work. It's okay. I mean, as a larger ecosystem, it kind of works out. So I always advocate. So that's one of the things that I definitely want to, talk about. And whoever is listening, ask for it. I mean, let the women over here go and ask for parental leave. let the men, ask for parental leave, and things will change when all of us ask, right? It's so important to ask. Yeah.
We were
Right.
having lunch and discussing that. So there are two set of men that we're talking about, right? One, men at home, that's like husbands, and men at work, like weather manager, probably women, but here there are a whole bunch of male managers who don't get it. And those are the kind of people that we need to discuss this with. And even coming, from point personal aspect, like men, husbands, it's not like they don't want to help. Probably they do. A lot of women don't ask.
No, and I think most men don't know how
How
to
to
help.
either. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's quite simple. Now I have 3 kids, right? So in the beginning, I wanted to do it all. So I did everything. It's not like my husband didn't want to do it all. I enjoyed it, I did. But after a point, second kid, I was like, I was still trying to do it all. And then at the third kid, and COVID hit around the same time. And I'm like, man, 3 kids and COVID, they're all home. And I'm like, I'm not sleeping at night because I'm feeding the kid at night, and morning I have to homeschool other 2 kids. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? You need to take on. He's like, sure. I was like, why did I ask?
Yeah, why
because
didn't I ask
it's
earlier?
the conditioning too. After a while, we don't. So and even right now I'm in India. We live in Florida. So my husband's watching my 3 boys, and in fact, he encouraged me. He's like, no, just go focus on the thing. I got it covered, which is so amazing. At the same time, I'm blessed, but not many women also have that, with the social conditioning which some men have. Even simple things like, okay, women go out and work and they come back, and sometimes they still have to work after they come back. And that's when it's like they start burning out, and their in-laws at home who probably might not understand. And child care, doing the homework, or, putting dinner or whatever, it's still on that. So it's like women are on complete shit. And they go back to work, it's enough.
Yeah, so Nija, we were
Ask
talking
one.
about, sorry.
No, I was just going to say there's the ask, but there's the other one, which is let go. I mean, do we even let go? And I always narrate the story from Pankajam Sridevi. If some of you have not heard of her, she is a role model. That you must look her up. She was the MD at ANZ where I worked, and then she was the MD at CBA, Commonwealth Bank of Australia. Now she's on the board of some banks, right? And she says this: we don't let go. So we think that only we can brush our children's teeth the best. We think only we can tie our children's shoes the best. And if I'm sure during COVID or otherwise also, if the men in the family were trying to help us by washing some vessels, we'd still say that corner has that just coach and mentor them, and they'll turn out to be fine, right? Yeah. So that was the piece.
Yeah, so Nija, when we were talking yesterday on this whole session and the flow and all that, one of the things I was telling Nija was that at Clay, I'm actually seeing that change. So when my daughter was younger, I think I did all of this, right? I didn't ask enough of him. I did not sort of say that I'm tired, I didn't say that I want to do career and this. It happened, but it's not something that I asked for, right? But what I realize now is that that generation is sort of changing. There are a ton of dads who come and drop children with 2 or 3 bags with lunch boxes and the water bottles labeled, and they're very clued into what's sort of happening at the young age. And it's so heartwarming to watch that these, you talked about families who've sort of moved into places like Bangalore and Hyderabad with sort of no village or no support. But it's really nice to see that it is going through that change. My only sort of advice to such families is that stay tuned, stay committed to the cause, because I don't think one or the other has to sort of really sacrifice. Use that ecosystem at home, use the ecosystem at work, right? And talk to your managers and say, and I've always found that women are far more conscientious when they're allowed a little time. So if I took a half day off, I'm already guilting myself of saying I'm already delayed on something else. I'll probably wake up at 4 in the morning next day and make sure that before my manager comes to work, he has what I committed to give it to him. Right? So I think it's really important to recognize that change. And mostly, like you said, I think men don't know how to do it. So it goes for the managers as well.
So for that, like we need to talk talk about policies too. So until there's policies, we cannot make those big shift. And everyone's talking about those numbers, right? Like with, with a mom, with a woman with a child versus one without it, there's a whole different bias right there, whether even the pay or even a man doing the same job, same skill level, same experience, but they're looked as if it's a liability just because she's a mother. But it's more of an asset. So it depends like what are the kind of policies they have. And then the corporates also complain that women are dropping off in senior level position, and one of their goal is to increase it, because right now that's the research that I'm doing. I'm talking to a lot of corporates, trying to understand, okay, so tell me what's going on. Like, okay, there's a problem, so what are you guys doing about it? We're having all these things. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, because in my community, I talk to these moms. I'm like, we're not seeing that. So it's like there seems to be some gap, and I'm still so help me out here if you guys are out there and whether you work for a company or would like to kind of come give feedback. I'd love to know more. So I think one of the things is to also train the managers, maybe do programs for the managers, and also probably men within the corporates as well, because their husbands maybe once in a while, instead of maybe retreat where they're just partying and having fun, maybe they could do this and maybe give some incentives as well. So there's some bonuses, because these women are really smart, they're very skilled, and they multitask. So it's an asset if they invest in them, and it will pay back, and there'll be more senior level women only if corporate put in that little bit of extra effort.
Since you spoke about the manager, I have to kind of narrate the story. And though it may again be a 20-plus-year-old story, I don't know if we have really progressed. Sometimes I feel we've regressed. But anyways, I should bring this up. So I took those 10 months off, right? And I said, and then people at home threw me out. So I went back to work. So not my manager, but the skip level manager with whom I had the conversation that, yeah, okay, what do I do now? I'm coming back. He told me that there is no role for me because I'd gone off for 10 months, right? So they had to kind of fill the role that I was in before I went on mat leave. So he then, after a few days, told me that I've somehow secured budget and I have created a role for you. But see, it has been a very difficult, task of securing budget, creating this role. I had to kind of speak to the on-site stakeholders. So I want some kind of a commitment from you, because he didn't ask me to sign any papers, but it was more verbal commitment to say that, hey, you're not going to take too many days off, because I don't want you to come and say my child is unwell, or today I want some flexi. Yeah, 20 years ago, so flexi and all of this was unheard of. So can you commit to that? And I thought I was an excellent, person, regarded for my talent before I went on mat leave, and here is a commitment clause coming. But anyways, I said, yeah, sure, I'm not just going to go away. So I went back to work like that, and this commitment piece always worked. Now, my immediate manager also had a child around the same time. So my daughter and his son were almost the same age, okay? And then I started noticing after I went back that day one, my manager called and said, hey, I'm not coming today. I said, okay, fine, something. Then a few days later, he called and said, I'm going to be a couple of hours late today. And this trend continued. And the reasons that he was giving was because his child was not letting him come to office. Okay? So either the child was not letting him come to the office, or the child was unwell, or his wife wanted some help, etc. So you know what I did? I quietly wrote down date, number of hours away, or the whole day away, reasons cited. All the reasons were child. And after 3 months, I took this diary to my skip level manager and said, hey, you took a commitment from me, you didn't take a commitment from him. He's taken so many days off. Well, there was no response from him, but I think that may have changed a little bit of a mindset in him. I don't know how things are today. As we're speaking penalties, what also happened was when the appraisal time comes, because I was away for 10 months, I was rated as a non-performer. So that definitely was a penalty. So of course I didn't get my pay and bonus, but then I'm sure my skip level manager thought that at least she's keeping her job, so yeah, she should be happy about it. And I didn't really make a big noise about it. But I've seen some shifts since then, where some companies have said, okay, if someone is on a maternity leave, we keep them away from the appraisal cycle. So we don't say perform, not perform, but we keep them out of the cycle. So at least there's no black mark, red mark against you that you are a non-performer, right? So these are some of the aspects that I think we need to really talk talk about when it comes to corporates and the policies, because that is what becomes a penalty, and then we start wondering whether it's okay for us to have children, and how do I get back to work, and how can I manage, because there's just too much beyond just managing at home.
EJ, I wanted to make a point there from the corporate side as well. When you talk about penalties, I think it's both ways, right? There are many corporates where women have gone on mat leaves and they've said we'll extend, and then they've quit after like 12 months of waiting, right? And that's also penalty to the corporate, if you may, right? So I think it's a very tricky question to try and balance both sides. If you're an organization with a lot of budgets and you're good with your, your cash rich and all of it, I think you can go all the way out. But I also see the other side, because we talk to these policymakers and often we as partners are questioned saying, how do we manage that, right? And that's when I really say, use the ecosystem, make it available, make it in their faces. They should be aware of all of it, right?
Right. I think it's about also giving that support, like flexible time, where the performance is measured on the work being done versus the time being spent. Whether a mother is, in fact, I was just having lunch with, where we're sitting, there was another lady, I think she works for Red Hat, and she was telling me, that she has a 2-year-old, and her work hour is just all over the place, right? So I'm like, she works from home. So one of the thing is, like, it doesn't matter if she's putting the kid to bed and then she can start the work later. So it's her thing, as long as the box is checked off, and managers should be okay with that, right? And other support system, like maybe if they are going to work, like, traveling to work, and they want to take their little infant, and have centers like Clay within the campus, so they're not worried. So that's another thing. So yeah, those are like few of the points.
Continue this forever, but I'm also seeing the time, and also, we may open up for a question from the audience. But I think in closing, there's another big thing that, always comes up, which is called as the guilt. So I do want to kind of, talk about that. I mean, all of us, and I don't know if Jacinta is there, she always says a girl is always born with the gift of guilt, right? So yes, forever in my life, I've been guilty ever since Neha was born. I remember a panel like this that was held at ANZ where I used to work, and I was the moderator. And I was asking all these senior women leaders, and I was asking, do you ever feel guilty that your child didn't get enough marks because you weren't there with the child, during the tests, helping the child prepare? And she said, what is the guarantee? Maybe the child have got worse marks if I was at home, right? So, that's the guilt that I started with. Then the guilt of I being probably the only mother that was working when, Sneha was going to school. All the other mothers were stay-at-home moms. Added to it, I hate cooking. So those kids used to have lovely things in the dabba, and my daughter all the time carried curd rice. And probably that's why she doesn't touch curd rice now. There was one, party or something where all the kids decided to bring something from home. And so Sneha in her 4th standard said, my mother will make pasta. And so I'm saying, okay, how to figure out pasta for 40 kids. And I should have known better, right? Pasta for 40 kids, maybe one piece of that spaghetti that may go in, right? Because there are 40 other dishes. I freaked out, and I tried my best, and I sent this pasta. Because she said, this mother is going to bake a cake, and the other mother is going to make this juice and so on. And when she comes back in the evening, I said, hey, so how was it? And she said, Ma, yeah, they liked it. So I said, tell me who made what? And she said, Ma, that mother, no, she just bought from Nilgiris and sent. And that other mother just, gave some money and said, go to canteen and buy what you want. And so the guilt continues as recent as now, when Sneha started working. Evenings I wait for her now to have a conversation. How was your day? Conversations. So there are some evenings, and she comes back late at 10 o'clock or so. She will tell me something if she has a mood. There was one evening when she came and said, Ma, I have a headache. Let's not talk now. And then the guilt came back to say that when she was young, probably one day she would have come to me when I came back from office and she wanted to play or something, and I said, Sneha, not today. Okay, but that guilt came only for a fleeting moment. Because I said, if I had quit my job then and stayed with her, how would this conversation today have been? She would have said, Ma, you don't even understand, right? here now. She said today, no, I don't want to talk, but she may have said, you don't even understand because you don't know how it is at work. So I just want to tell people, do what you like, ensure that you feel good doing what you are doing. That's all the bottom line. Work, no work, how are you working, how are you managing? As long as you're feeling good about it, go for it.
It's like you do you. That's like the most important thing. It's like fingerprints, right? Everybody has different fingerprints. So even motherhood is like that. What works for, say, her might not work for me, and what works for me might not work for her. So we cannot compare. It's just looking at how your life is, what's on the table, who you're married to, what kind of work you have, and coming up with things that work for you. And even with talking about guilt, I think it's cutting the emotional cord as well, which is going to be the hardest as mothers. I think kids probably need us less than we think they need us. I think it's for us mothers to be like, okay, also finding ourselves. And that is a big thing with what we do at Mom Power 360. How do we still be us and enjoy the motherhood without getting our identity tied to it so much that we lose track of who we are. And end of the day, our kids want us to be happy. And when we, as mothers, we are happy, they will be happy, and so will the spouse, so will the corporates, the whole world. So it all kind of starts from us.
My only 2 cents, I only have one mantra. If we are gifted with the gift of guilt, I think children and husbands and managers are also gifted with the power of manipulation. So as long as you know it, you'll survive. Yeah. On that note, if anybody has any questions, we are happy to answer as
Please
well.
do. Yeah. Any question, one question we can take?
A small audience, you might actually want to just come up and.
Thank you so much. Very good conversation, really informative speech. Because I hope most of the people are moms here, and I'm a mom of two monkey sons, and one son is just entering into a teen. So I'm into leadership role now. I have to spend more time with the meetings and everything. So every day it is haunting me like, yeah, am I neglecting them because they are into teenage and they because of this digital world. But I felt like they are not concentrating on studies and they are more into digital things and concentrating more. If I could have spent more time with them, maybe they might change. But you are really that is right, because it might be worse if I spend more time. Then they want to run away from mom.
You said your son's age is what, 13?
13, yeah.
Okay, so my son just turned 14. And when he was little, he would run behind me everywhere. I would go to the bathroom, he would be sitting there. I'd be like, can I have like 2 minutes? They're like, no. Even my 4-year-old follows me around. But here is the thing, as they get older, they need less and less of you.
Exactly.
And that's not them, that's nature's way, because that's how they learn who they are to be independent. If we are always clinging, they'll never be like individuals. And you have to let go, and they need to learn to make mistakes and learn from their own mistakes. You're not going to be there for them when they're in 20s. They are going to fall, they're going to make mistakes. All you can do as a mother is to teach them right from wrong. And they, by that age, the 13, 14, they want to have their space. Like right now, when I traveled, my 4-year-old was crying. He's like, Mommy, don't go.
Exactly.
You know what? My 14-year-old is like, Mommy, have a great trip. Have fun. You know?
Sometimes even they don't
Yeah.
tell that
And
have a
they're all
great trip or
excited. They're like,
something.
no rule, right? Like with the TV and thing, it can be free. But that's what it is. But of course, the love's always there. But that's how the world moves. So
So, I mean, I'm just asking, like, what suggestion you give for teens, like whoever entering, how moms has to
teens
be.
such a challenging, especially in today's world with social media and the phones and everything that kids are exposed to. I mean, I have all the timers on the phone, right? So at certain time the devices turns off. So there's no discussion, there's no control. The more we control, the more battle will start, right? So it's like this, everything is said, this is the time you get, take it or leave it, right? And we can maybe extra. So I think that's a good way to set some ground rules, and it's not in a way of control, but more of what is okay and what's not okay, and having that conversation with them. And as they get older, you'll have to be very efficient with your conversation. We can't have those long things, so because they have like less and less attention span, and they cannot have the long stretched conversation. So they become
I-
more friends.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Boundaries rather than, say, don't do this and don't do that. Set some boundaries and let them do within those boundaries, I think.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But I don't know how we're doing for time. Maybe this is the last question and then we are around.
Shreya, are we good with time? You guys, another session? Okay. Okay, good.
Thank you, thank
Thank
you. So we'll
you.
take this question and take Shreya's thanks.
Hi all. Again, brilliant session. Unfortunately, I joined in the middle and I couldn't attend the beginning, but still I got the gist. So I have a 10-month-old and I just got back from maternity around 3-4 months back. So what I've been hearing is a lot of advice. First of all, during this period, a lot of people say that it's okay to take a break because right now the kids need you most. But counterpart is right now I'm also in a space that I'm enjoying the organization that I'm in. If I take a break, I don't know if I'll be able to get back in the same space, in the same role, or maybe in the same company. So, what advice do you have? Which is the correct phase, and how much time should you dedicate? Which one you should prioritize, work versus kids, especially with such small babies?
Okay, I have an 18-year-old and I didn't have an integrated daycare and sort of set up when she was growing up, the one I trusted, right? But I'm sort of just giving you this advice from what we do as an organization. We are Clay. Um, Infants, which is under 14 to 15 months, is the best age to settle them into a routine, and children thrive on a routine. And it's impossible to have the set routine at home just around adults. So, my advice to you, which we give also to 1,000 other women who come to us as well, is have a combination of spending a lot of time on weekends with your child, but don't feel guilty about putting your child in a place which you trust and have a routine for the 10-month-old. It's a brilliant age for children to socially thrive as well, and they'll be really better, curious children going to a pre-primary school and make you really proud and give you all the bragging rights if you start this young. There will be a lot of convincing at home. There will be a lot of mom's guilt that you'll probably also feel because you rightly said you're at the path where you're also growing in your career. But try and see if you can carve out time for sure, let's say on weekends, every evening, and your schedule around the child's routine is set. And he or she, I mean, I'm guessing it's 10-month-old boy? Yeah, he will love having you around for that little time. And don't guilt yourself over it. See if you have parents at home or partner who can also pitch in when you're not, right? And therefore balance it. But don't quit if you love what you do.
Absolutely. I mean, do what you think you want to do, which will make you feel good. I go back to that because this is a long journey, right? Yours is 10-month-old and I'm looking at a 22-year-old. There have been enough and more, stages in life when I have said, did I really do the right thing? I may be asking myself the same question even now, but, in some ways they're quietly observing you. And you become, role model is a big term, but there is some inspiration they derive from you. And I did quietly listen to Sneha, on some podcast where she said that all my life I have looked at my mother who's been working. And I knew that there was nothing, no other way to live life but to work. Now, if I reflect, even one day I've not sat down with her and said, Sneha, you've got to have a career. I've done all kinds of conversations, but not that. So there's a lot of role modeling that happens. So do what you think is right for yourself, and the child learns from you.
I just want to add, my 11-year-old daughter has only seen me at my work desk for the last 8 months. She has not had a moment of my time. She's entirely in my mom's hands. They're both going to come today. But when she sees this, there's no better apology I can give her and no better reward I can give myself for what we put together.
She'll be so proud of you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Treya.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. It
Proud
was,
if you need to ask more questions.
yeah, thank you so much. I know a lot of you have a lot of questions, but please take them outside the hall. But it was such a thoughtful session. Thank you so much, and I hope you all had a great time listening to them.